No one could have foreseen it. A secret concealed for more than 10 years, lurking in the dark corners of the African continent, abruptly unveiled to the world. An underground intelligence apparatus, masterminded by none other than Benjamin Netanyahu, had embedded itself firmly within nearly every African state, siphoning information, altering deals, and undermining entire governments. Now, a single man stood ready to wipe it from existence, Ibrahim Traoré. The annals of history would mark the day he halted the covert stream of intelligence to Tel Aviv as the very moment Africa, for the first time, set its own terms. What could possibly dismantle such a remarkably intricate network in merely a single night? Who, in truth, holds the reins of this continent? It all started with a tip that appeared innocent enough. A telecommunications deal valued at $200 million, discreetly authorized between a supposedly impartial firm and the Ministry of the Interior in Burkina Faso. But when Traore ordered a probe, he uncovered that every month, more than 3 terabytes of personal details, security documents, and geological maps were being diverted directly to servers located in Tel Aviv. Not just a single company, but 6 separate firms, controlling 70% of the nation's military and economic network backbone, were enmeshed in the exact same scheme. Who had granted them such sweeping authority, and why had silence prevailed for 15 years? On the 12th of May, 2024, a confidential dossier from the Counterintelligence Bureau of Burkina Faso landed on Traore's desk. The report spanned over 400 pages, yet after reading only the first, he realized this was a battle for survival. The findings laid bare a clandestine intelligence operation painstakingly constructed over more than 10 years by Benjamin Netanyahu and his innermost circle. It functioned under a facade of legality. Telecommunications companies, charity initiatives, mining ventures, even counter-terrorism efforts. Yet beneath this veneer, it was a system designed to extract information, strangle the economy, and fracture Burkina Faso's political scene. The operation was organized into 3 distinct layers. The first, technical infrastructure. Firms such as Westel Africa erected transmission towers across 18 provinces, supposedly to expand free internet access, but in truth, these towers housed signal intercepting technology. In the year 2023 alone, they secretly duplicated upwards of 48 million phone conversations and over 2 million text messages, covertly transmitting all data via encrypted channels to an analysis facility in Herzliya, Israel. The second layer, economic infiltration. In 2018, an Israeli investment fund negotiated a $1.4 billion agreement with Burkina Faso for the development of mining infrastructure and cybersecurity. A concealed clause, never disclosed publicly, granted foreign technical consultants direct entry into the nation's resource management systems. This resulted in the overexploitation of the Anata gold mine by more than 60%. With 4 2/10 tons of gold vanishing every year, valued at roughly $250 million. The third layer, political manipulation. Non-governmental organizations and research centers, financed by Israel, covertly bankrolled opposition movements, fanning flames of religious and ethnic discord. The dossier documented that between 2020 and 2023, at least 18 disinformation campaigns were orchestrated, tarnishing the image of Burkina Faso's government and triggering violent demonstrations. National security was gutted. Military intelligence, geological surveys, and the names of high-ranking officers leaked on a routine basis. In August 2022, a convoy transporting uranium ore in the north was ambushed along a route and schedule known only to the highest officials. The economy hemorrhaged. From 2015 to 2023, Burkina Faso hemorrhaged $3.8 billion to overmining, tax dodges, and price tampering. Society became divided. In the Sahel, 2 peoples who had once lived in harmony now found themselves pitted against each other, partly due to false reports spread by the very network in question, alleging one ethnic group had been granted mining privileges while the other was excluded. Then came the decisive blow. On the 17th of May, 2024, precisely at 7:15 in the morning, 14 military transporters encircled the headquarters of Westel Africa in Ouagadougou. Armed troops surged inside, confiscating 320 hard drives, 210 servers, and every encrypted communications device. Initial findings indicated that a comprehensive map detailing the military deployments of Burkina Faso had been transmitted overseas only 48 hours earlier. Simultaneously, in the southern region, elite units launched an assault on the main office of Africa Resource Analytics, a purported mining advisory firm, which in truth functioned as an outpost for an Israeli defense conglomerate. Inside, operatives uncovered a stash containing approximately 1.7 terabytes of strategic resource data, including undisclosed petroleum deposits in the Gao area, appraised at roughly $8 billion. By 9:30 in the morning, additional squads orchestrated synchronized raids on 6 more connected locations, ranging from the offices of non-governmental organizations to data hubs. More than 40 foreign staff members were taken into custody, 11 of whom possessed Israeli travel documents. All satellite transmission devices were locked down.
Then came the resounding announcement. That afternoon, Traore addressed the nation on state television. Today, we have severed the coil strangling the lifeblood of Burkina Faso. No country, regardless of its wealth or might, is entitled to turn our homeland into a game board for its ambitions. Those who plot in secrecy to betray our nation will face consequences. The public reaction was explosive. Capitals in neighboring states reeled with apprehension and uncertainty. Would they soon become targets of a similar operation by Traore's forces? News from Ouagadougou hit with electrifying speed. Within 24 hours, images of Burkina-backed troops escorting expatriate personnel, sealing off data servers, and loading boxes of encrypted hardware onto trucks swept across African social networks. The dominoes began to fall.
In Bamako, Mali, President Assimi Goïta ordered a halt to all defense technology agreements with Israeli firms for thorough review. In Conakry, Guinea, the Ministry of Communications proclaimed the indefinite suspension of 2 cybersecurity enterprises with Israeli backing. Niger initiated a comprehensive audit of every foreign-affiliated telecommunications infrastructure project. These were merely the first responses. Still, the underlying message was unmistakable. None wished to become the next Burkina Faso.
A wave of panic surged in Tel Aviv. On the 18th of May, 2024, at 5 o'clock in the morning local time, Benjamin Netanyahu assembled a crisis meeting at the office of the Prime Minister. In attendance were the Chief of Mossad, the Minister of Defense, and top-level national security advisors. The atmosphere brimmed with tension. Every slide of the presentation brought grim updates. An illuminated map on the wall revealed that no fewer than 9 African nations were either reconsidering or dismantling infrastructure financed by Israel. Forecasted losses surpassed $3 billion United States dollars within half a year should the pattern persist. One advisor cried out, "He is not merely focused on Burkina Faso. Traore is erecting a barrier around the entirety of West Africa. This sets a lethal example."
Shockwaves rippled throughout the West. In Paris, President Emmanuel Macron telephoned Netanyahu directly, voicing grave concerns and promising to cooperate in devising a strategy to quell this surge of defiance. Washington likewise intervened. The United States Department of State released a statement. "We are closely observing developments and encourage Burkina Faso to respect its obligations regarding international partnerships." Privately, American officials confessed to fearing that Traore's approach could extend from security into the realms of mining, energy, and beyond. The pressure to retaliate mounted. On the 20th of May, pro-Israeli media outlets rolled out coordinated narratives labeling Traore as an emergent autocrat, charging him with destabilizing the region and forging ties with anti-Western factions. Their goal was to isolate Burkina Faso in the diplomatic arena and erode internal support. Yet the counterattack faltered. Across digital platforms in Africa, the hashtag #TraoreForAfrica swiftly climbed to the top of trending lists. Millions voiced their endorsement, with many christening the 17th of May as Sovereignty Day. The concluding move.
According to sources familiar with internal deliberations, Netanyahu personally telephoned an African leader, seeking his assistance as a mediator to open negotiations with Traore. Every word of the response was dwelled beneath your influence for far too many years. Now the shadow has been dispelled. There is nothing left to bargain over. The connection was severed. For nearly 60 seconds, Netanyahu sat in silence, then gave the command. Engage every available channel. No matter the expense, prevent him from succeeding before the entire continent is swept along. Yet, by the time these instructions were relayed, the opportunity had already vanished. The barrier Traore constructed was not forged from armies, but from the confidence of hundreds of millions, a force even Mossad could not infiltrate. On the 22nd of May, 2024, Operation Blackheart was set in motion. A mere 5 days following Traore's decisive move, a wave of peculiar events erupted throughout Burkina Faso. In Ouagadougou, the nation's capital, the main power grid abruptly shut down for 6 hours, paralyzing telecommunications and financial networks. Further north, an ambush on a medical supply convoy resulted in 12 soldiers losing their lives. Western news outlets rushed in with headlines, "Turbulence mounts after Traore's dangerous gambit." The Counterintelligence Bureau wasted no time, swiftly gathering irrefutable evidence. These disturbances were orchestrated as part of a clandestine mission managed by Mossad-affiliated operatives codenamed Blackheart. The mission's aim? To sow disorder, to fabricate the illusion that expelling the Israeli intelligence network had dragged Burkina Faso into disarray, and to push the public and dissatisfied officers toward rebellion. The first phase targeted essential infrastructure. Inside engineers, once employed by West Africa, had embedded harmful code deep within the grid's command systems. When remotely activated, it knocked out the central control room, casting 11 provinces into pitch-black silence. The second phase fanned the flames of violence. Suddenly, local armed factions found themselves flush with cash and advanced weaponry, funneled through a covert route that snaked across the Niger border. Intelligence revealed that some of these arms were delivered by drones, their origins traced back to a Middle Eastern nation. The third phase was an information onslaught. Hundreds of counterfeit social media accounts erupted, circulating allegations that Traore had bartered uranium mines to an Asian power and halted foreign medical assistance, resulting in starving children. These fabrications were synchronized, appearing all at once across Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram. Traore's retaliation. What Netanyahu failed to foresee was that Traore had already laid out a defensive blueprint before launching his May 17th initiative. On May 23rd, standing beside the energy minister, he addressed the nation live, unveiling undeniable proof of West Africa's malware. He presented images pulled from confidential engineer correspondence and a server address pointing directly to Tel Aviv. Speaking candidly, he declared, "They seek not only our natural wealth, but wish to see us humbled in darkness. Yet we refuse to fear the night." That same day, military tech teams were mobilized to overhaul the entire power management network with a provisional homegrown solution. Within 48 hours, full electrical service was restored, a recovery swifter than any global specialist had anticipated. To cripple the armed factions, Traore ordered the strictest border enforcement in history. At the eastern checkpoint, troops apprehended a convoy packed with 400 assault weapons and 60,000 cartridges. State broadcasters aired unmistakable footage of serial codes, linking them straight to a previously identified Middle Eastern arsenal. On the information battlefield, Traore took an unprecedented leap, uploading the country's entire financial record online. Every citizen could now see for themselves. No uranium sales ever occurred. A media strategist commented, "We bested them through relentless openness. Truth shines where falsehoods wither." Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, on May 26th, the newspaper Haaretz reported behind closed doors that Benjamin Netanyahu, upon learning Traore had dismantled the Black Heart scheme within 72 hours, broke a coffee mug in fury. An Israeli general admitted, "We failed to gauge his resolve." This was not a leader prone to rash decisions. Instead, he was a tactician who weighed every outcome, even those no one anticipated. Strangely enough, the sabotage campaign produced the reverse of its intended effect. When the citizens of Burkina Faso watched their leader lay bare everything, from adversary emails to the books of the National Treasury, confidence in his leadership soared. An internal survey conducted by the University of Ouagadougou on May the 28th revealed that 91% of the population supported Traore's uncompromising stance against external meddling. Meanwhile, the movement to purge foreign infrastructure gained momentum in neighboring nations. Benin declared it would halt all technology initiatives financed by Middle Eastern sources. Togo put a stop to agreements with a data mining enterprise backed by Israel. Netanyahu and his circle realized that the opportunity to reverse the situation was shrinking with each passing day. Yet every hurried maneuver simply strengthened Traore's standing as a steadfast champion of African autonomy. On June 2, 2024, just as it seemed Burkina Faso had survived the upheaval, a confidential report from military security sent shockwaves through the presidential palace. Forensic experts had combed through hard drives seized from West Hell Africa and discovered a suspicious internet address that accessed the national security network repeatedly. That address belonged to none other than the military command headquarters. The account in question was registered to Colonel Karim Doumbia, the Deputy Director General of Security, hand-picked by Traore himself out of utter trust. In secret, Doumbia had been channeling sensitive intelligence to a middleman in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, who relayed it straight to Tel Aviv. The revelation was deeply personal. On the night of June 3rd, Traore gathered his closest aides for a private session in the Situation Room. The air was thick with unease. Staring at Doumbia's image projected on the wall, he spoke quietly. He said, "He stood by my side on the very first day of this campaign, and yet, through all this time, he was their last connection." Some advisors worried that news of this betrayal would shatter public confidence, but Traore decided otherwise. At dawn on June 4th, he appeared on national television and disclosed the entire story. "We have uncovered a traitor among us. This is the lesson. The enemy is not always outside our boundaries. Sometimes it stands right beside us. But we are not afraid of the truth, for only the truth can keep this nation whole." That night, Special Operations Forces quietly encircled Doumbia's home. Not a single shot was fired, yet the atmosphere was suffocating. As he was taken away, Doumbia remained silent, his lips curled into a frosty grin. In his jacket, the operatives discovered a USB stick holding detailed charts of undisclosed lithium reserves within Burkina Faso, a strategic asset valued at tens of billions of United States dollars. The entire nation was rattled, but the response defied Mossad's calculations. Rather than question their leader, the people applauded Traore's willingness to act transparently and resolutely, even when the culprit was someone from his inner circle. A widely shared post on social networks read, "He does not shelter friends, he protects the country." The reverberations did not stop there. Reports of the treachery were closely followed by neighboring states. In Mali, 3 high-ranking officers were detained for suspected connections to foreign intelligence. Guinea's government created a special panel to scrutinize defense officials. Without meaning to, Burkina Faso had set an example for rooting out spies from within. In Tel Aviv, however, Netanyahu's strategists drew a different lesson. The Doumbia incident revealed that vulnerabilities for infiltration still lingered. An internal memo that surfaced online stated, "If you cannot breach the barrier from the outside, carve your way through from within." Trio recognized that this conflict was far from finished. The Doumbia episode was merely a warning. The adversary would not retreat. Each triumph achieved today was simply the opening movement to tomorrow's confrontations. On June the 10th, 2024, the nation gathered. Ouagadougou's National Square overflowed with people. More than 200,000 individuals from all corners of the region converged, their hands raised high with flags, banners fluttering, and voices united in song. Amid this vast sea of humanity, Ibrahim Traoré made his way to the stage, clad in a battered, time-worn military jacket, his eyes alight with unwavering determination. With measured and unmistakable clarity, he narrated the path that led from the discovery of what appeared to be an innocuous telecommunications agreement to the uncovering of Netanyahu's elaborate web of espionage to the decisive blow dealt on May 17th, the Black Heart sabotage, and finally to the staggering revelation of Doumbia's betrayal. He spared no details, believing with conviction that only absolute openness could safeguard the trust of the people. Sovereignty, he declared, is not a simple document. It is forged from sacrifice, intellect, and bravery. True sovereignty is the moment you refuse to let any outsider, however wealthy or influential, tighten their grip around your throat. The crowd erupted, chanting his name, but Traoré lifted his hand, beckoning for calm. "I have not come before you today to bask in your applause," he began. "I stand here to remind every one of you, this struggle does not conclude with a single victory. Our adversaries will return. They will disguise themselves, shift their strategies, and if you, the youth, do not remain vigilant, the past will repeat itself."
He paused, letting his gaze sweep the multitude. "Will you accept a future in which your children grow up in a land where outsiders dictate information, resources, and decisions?" The answer thundered from hundreds of thousands of throats. "No!"
"Then each of you is a defender. Not all of you will bear arms, but every one of you can safeguard our homeland, through truth, through vigilance, and by never betraying your conscience."
From the platform, Traoré called for the nation's story of resistance to become a pillar of education, to be taught from the earliest years of school through to university. He argued that if the young understood how their ancestors were deprived of land, gold, and liberty, they would never permit such injustice again. Schools would now teach the Traoré doctrine, 3 inviolable tenets: complete transparency in every contract with foreign states, zero tolerance for clandestine intelligence operations, and unity among neighboring nations to detect and repel any interference without delay. He stressed, "Education is our mightiest weapon. Ammunition can be depleted, but the gift of knowledge, once placed in the hands of the people, can never be stolen." The effect was swift and profound. Merely 2 weeks after his address, 6 West African countries formally entered into the Data Sovereignty Pact. This historic agreement created a unified blacklist of organizations accused of data exploitation and meddling in politics. Predictably, many entries on that list traced their roots back to Tel Aviv. In response, the African Union held an urgent gathering and endorsed a resolution to support the resistance against covert foreign machinations. Western news outlets branded it a seismic geopolitical event. Yet, for the people of Africa, it was only the beginning of a lengthy journey, one reaching toward future generations. Far from the cities, in rural communities, children were no longer forced into the mines. Instead, they filled the seats of freshly built classrooms, opening books that recounted the events of May 17th. The cover of these books bore the Burkina Faso flag, standing proud before a row of secured servers, a powerful emblem of reclaiming their digital destiny. Elders shared with their grandchildren tales of a shadowed era, when every conversation, every ounce of gold, and every state decision was swayed by unseen forces. But they also recounted the day everything shifted, the moment a leader had the courage to defy a system entrenched for decades. If this story stirs something within you, do not let it dim. Share your thoughts below. For every voice helps to fortify the wall that shields our liberty. If you hold that sovereignty is not a commodity, that freedom is each nation's birthright, then like and share this story, ensuring the flame remains forever alive. Should you feel moved to journey further with us, to listen to and share the tales of those brave enough to confront the shadows, then join our community by subscribing to our channel. Together, we are 99%, yet it takes only 1% with unwavering resolve to alter the destiny of an entire continent. Become that 1%. Across the square, a chorus of voices surged, soaring above the rhythm of drums and the melody of songs. On that day, Burkina Faso was not simply rejoicing in triumph. They were sowing the promise of a tomorrow where every new generation would know how to rise with pride, unbowed and unbroken.